there, welcome back to Passport and Soul, where culture, wellness, and travel all come together.
We're Cassandra and Craig, and today we're going to talk about something we've talked about earlier, hinted at, but we're going to go really deep because we haven't done that before.
Yep. We're going to dive into what it's like to deal with microaggressions when you're traveling. So, the subtle and sometimes not so subtle kinds of moments that can throw you off of your game when you're just trying to live your life and enjoy your trip.
As Black travelers, we've had our share of those moments, both here and abroad. And so today we're sharing a few of our stories that we've learned and what we've learned from them and how we protect our peace while we're still exploring the world.
Absolutely. Let's start by keeping it real. When we say microaggressions, what we're talking about are those subtle digs or uncomfortable moments that make you feel othered or feel like the other when you're in a particular place.
And we're not talking about somebody yelling something rude at you or screaming your name or things like that. It's like being ignored at a restaurant, stared at when you go to a store, or hearing a comment that makes you wonder, is it meant in a way that it sounded? Or was it just an innocent gesture or innocent comment?
Exactly. It's like those death by 1,000 cuts that can add extra stress to your trip if you don't know how to process them and process what it is that you're feeling. Here's the thing. Traveling as a person who's part of the African diaspora means that we're often seen before we're known. That's something that at times it can be heavy. It's something that also can be really, really powerful when we're grounded in knowing who it is that we are. So, one thing that really stuck with me was one that didn't even happen when we were abroad. It happened while we were right here at home. Remember at that restaurant?
Yeah, it seemed like we were just being totally ignored. The restaurant was somewhat crowded, not really crowded. We had a large group, which is granted, could make it kind of stressful for a waiter or waitress, but still, to be completely ignored and not seen or just like we weren't even there, it was very bothersome. And it left a bad taste in my mouth.
No, absolutely. So it was a situation where we're all, sitting there waiting to be able to place our order, and that we noticed like all these other tables had their food and had their orders placed and had their food way before we did. So it turns out that the waiter hadn't even put in our group's order. Like Craig said, that was really, really bothersome. It was, one of those things where we all had to we were taken aback and we had to sit there and really say, like, does this really happen? And we had to make a decision about whether or not we should react. And if we did, how to do it, or should we just, let it go, not say anything at all and protect our peace? So ultimately, what we chose to do was to both protect our peace and stand up for ourselves. So we ended up, coming from a place of calm, speaking to both the waiter and the manager in order to have the situation resolved and have a situation like that never happen again in that particular restaurant. It definitely won't to us because we haven't been
back since and don't plan on going back ever again.
Exactly. So they won't have to worry about us anymore. But it just shows you that you don't have to be very far from home in order to deal with a microaggression. So another time we were in Santiago, Chile, and we definitely felt the stares while we were there. At one point we were in a plaza, and there was a guy who was doing sort of like caricature portraits. So I sat down to get my caricature done.
When we first got there, it was interesting because the plaza was pretty empty. There might have been us and maybe about 6 or 7, maybe 10 other people walking around the plaza. Once she sat down and started the guy started drawing her caricature, a whole group, people would walk by, stop, stare for 2-3 minutes. Then all of a sudden we had a crowd around us, and we were trying to figure out, what was the reason why? Was it because this artist was well known? Was it because the drawing was excellent, great? I know she's a pretty woman, but still, are they stopping for that, or are they stopping because they've never seen people who look like us in that plaza, in that city ever before. And it was kind of disconcerting for a moment. Made us a little nervous, but we kept our guard up.
Exactly. And then there was even a time when we were taking the subway. So we definitely like being able to take public transportation when we're in a new place, because it gives you a feel for the city and for how people go about their daily lives. And I actually linked to a video that I did about us being able to use transportation, other ways of getting to know a city. But we were on the subway, just minding our business, trying to get to whatever location we were getting to. And Craig somehow, I don't even know how he got it, but he snapped a picture of a lady giving me stink eye, so to speak, on the subway while I was just riding, living my life riding, going from one location to the next. Because sometimes when you travel as a Black couple, you become the unofficial cultural exhibit for your country.
Right. And the interesting thing about this was, in Santiago, during the time we were on the subway, it was around rush hour. Rush hour in Santiago, Chile is like New York City on steroids. So you can imagine, you're at 42nd Street here in New York City, you see about 4,000 people at any particular stop at any particular time of the day. Now, triple that. That's practically what we saw in Santiago. Then you get on the train. There's barely enough room to turn around. You're so cramped up in there that you could barely move. And to catch that, when we got in, everybody stopped what they were doing and looked. We know we're not celebrities. We know we don't look like celebrities, but still everyone stopped. So we kind of shook it off. We were riding about 4 or 5 stops. And then I noticed this one particular person looking like, I don't know, we had leprosy or something. It was one of the weirdest things.
It's something that can be tiring over time, but what we usually do is we ground ourselves. So we take deep breaths, and we laughed about it. Now it's a funny story to talk about as an experience that we had. It's just one of the things that happens and that comes with exploring places where people may not have seen many people that look like you.
Just to finish this off, I have been doing research on a lot of South American countries, and I've noticed that in recent years, Santiago, as well as Chile as a whole, has been experiencing a growth in African people from the African diaspora. So it's not one of those things where we were overtly not wanted. It was one of the things where they just had not seen us before, and now that we're starting to increase our numbers there, I think it's probably going to be a little bit better. When we make our return trip, we'll give you another report.
Then there was the time in London when we were back there doing our vow removal.
And one thing I must tell you guys, London is her second favorite city in the world.
It really is.
So we've probably been there more than we've been anywhere.
So we were on the Millennium Bridge having just sort of like a mini photo shoot with our photographer. And, the photographer was kind of directing us in our poses and stuff like that. And then I happened to look over, and there was this young girl who was taking pictures of me. Just a complete, total stranger. No conversation, no consent. She's just snapping away like I was part of the scenery or something.
Now, to put this in perspective, it was a Black groom, Black bride. She looked amazing that day, and I was dressed in a tuxedo, so I looked pretty good myself.
You did.
Then we also had my brother, who's also African American like myself. Our photographer was from African descent. She's from Paris. And then we had our officiant, who is African descent, who's from London, or outside of London, rather. So all of us were walking in a group. It was 5 of us walking around, taking pictures and posing for, different locations in London, walking around, and people just kind of stopped, stared, and, looking like, what's going on? What's happening? Again, we're not celebrities. We don't look like celebrities. And also, London is about as diverse as New York City. So that made it all the more surprising.
And it kind of felt like when she just started taking the pictures, it felt like it crossed a little bit of a boundary. I don't think it was meant in any kind of malicious intent, but it was kind of weird. And it just really reminded me that even in a global cosmopolitan city, that those boundary violations, they can still happen in places like that. And it's about awareness and consent. So I kind of gave her a little look, and then she stopped. But the whole thing was just a little funny, a little amusing.
Here's the thing, we can't control other people's behavior. We can only control how we respond to other people.
Yeah, and for us, that starts always with pausing. We take a deep breath before reacting, and that's because we've learned that when you respond from a place of being grounded and not from a place of anger, you stay in your power.
We also sit down, take a moment, and we talk it out. Basically to make sure that we both kind of feel the same way and we're reacting in the same way. Neither of us overreacted. If one of us did overreact, we talk about, like, why did you react that way, or why did you not react the same way I react?
We give ourselves grace, because you don't always have to be the educator or make it a teachable moment, because sometimes just preserving your own self-preservation is the most radical act that you can do in a particular moment. Protecting our grace is part of traveling well.
Exactly, and protecting your peace is part of travel wellness. Always protect your peace.
Here are a few things that help us handle microaggressions when we're traveling. First is to ground yourself first and act secondly. A few deep breaths can shift you out of that reaction mode. Second is leaning on your travel partner if you're not doing solo travel. Don't carry it all alone. Debrief with them, vent it out, release it. Third is decide on what's worth addressing. Every comment doesn't need your energy. Choose what feels aligned with your beliefs and with your values. Number 4 is plan in time to help you feel more grounded. So build in quiet space after those kind of heavy moments, even if you're just taking a walk or journaling or listening to your favorite playlist or just being. Something that helps you come back to yourself. And number 5, remember that your joy is a form of resistance. You belong each and every single everywhere that your passport will take you.
And don't let these small microaggressions ruin your trip. Just remember, it's only a small portion of your trip, and it's a small part of the world. The world is huge. It's vast. There's billions of people you haven't seen before, billions of people you want to see, millions of places you want to go to. And don't let every awkward or ignorant moment there is bother you or stay with you or ruin your trip, because there's always going to be a moment of beauty, kindness, or connection waiting for you wherever you go.
Absolutely. And we know that this isn't a topic that's an easy one, but it's a conversation that's worth having, because these conversations will help all of us be able to travel more consciously and support each other along the way. If you've ever experienced something similar while traveling, we'd love to hear how you handled it. Drop a comment below in the comment section and share your story or your tips, because your words and experiences might help another traveler that's experiencing the same sort of situation. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like it, subscribe to Passport and Soul, and forward it on to someone else. Until the next time, travel slow, travel well, and travel with soul.